Welcome to the Get Fit Guy's quick and dirty tips to slim down and shape up. My name is Ben Greenfield. I'm the Get Fit Guy, and in today's episode, you're going to learn how to train like a UFC fighter, even if you don't want to get into the cage. Okay, so the topic of how some of the world's top athletes, MMA fighters, get fit has recently been at the forefront of my mind. Not only am I, as I recently posted on Instagram.com/BenGreenfieldFitness, personally training to step into the cage for a kickboxing fight later this summer, but I also recently watched one of the most hyped events of the past several years in the realm of athleticism, cardiovascular fitness, muscular endurance, stamina, and stress control, a fight between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. And even if you're not training for a fight, you too can tap into some of the same skills so that you can look, move, and perform like these athletes. So, step one is to engage in HIIT. Fighting fitness begins with what I call a big gas tank. And when a fighter in the ring is referred to as gassed, this typically means they've run out of oxygen and they're in the process of being forced to repay that oxygen debt. Now, when you exercise, your body uses oxygen to create energy, but when you reach a high intensity during exercise, your body's demand for oxygen exceeds your ability to breathe in that much oxygen and deliver it to muscles. And when this happens, your body goes into an oxygen debt. Once you go into an oxygen debt, not only do your muscles begin to burn and you begin to breathe hard, but you also put your body into a state where it needs to repay that oxygen debt post-exercise. While repaying a debt may seem like a complex topic, better addressed by my fellow Quick and Dirty Tips podcaster, the Money Girl, it's actually quite easy for your body to repay an oxygen debt. You just need to breathe more and breathe deeper. And when you breathe more and breathe deeper, your body burns more calories. Depending on how hard you've worked, this oxygen repaying can help you burn anywhere from a few dozen to over 100 extra calories each hour after you exercise, for up to 24 hours after you've finished. This is where high-intensity interval training, aka HIIT, comes in. Beside weight training, one of the best ways to create high post-exercise oxygen consumption is via the hard cardio efforts you do during a HIIT routine. Now, it might be virtually impossible to create that oxygen debt by, say, riding a bicycle as hard as you can for 10 minutes, but you could easily split those 10 minutes into, say, several 30 to 60-second efforts followed by long recovery periods and still achieve the same fitness effect, actually an even greater fitness and calorie burning effect. And while riding a bicycle is just one example of a HIIT routine, a few more of my favorites include 10 uphill sprints on a treadmill at maximum speed for 30 seconds each with full recovery, 10 50-meter sprints in the pool with minimal breathing during those sprints, or 10 sets of 20 burpees. Now, in the next section, I'm going to tell you exactly how to move on and get the power of an MMA fighter. Okay, so here's tip number 2. Power and plyometrics. In the Get Fit Guy episode, How to Train Like an American Ninja Warrior, I give you the concept of fast feet. That's the ability to move quickly and explosively, and it's crucial not only for a sport like obstacle racing or Ninja Warrior, but also for fighting. So some of the best ways to get your feet moving quickly include agility ladders you can step in and out of. And these are popular among tennis players, football teams, etc. And you can get them from a sporting goods store or online. Sprinting down mildly steep grassy slopes like you'd find on a golf course. Doing explosive alternating step-ups onto a step bench at the gym. Putting a treadmill on a very fast sprint speed and trying to stay on as long as possible. And doing lots of plyometrics. Now, I give you plenty of plyometric exercises and videos in a previous Get Fit Guy episode that I'll link to over at quickanddirtytips.com. It's the episode on superhuman strength. But the idea is this. You can trick your muscles into producing high amounts of power by teaching your body how to have a faster cycle called a stretch shortening cycle, or SSC. You can make the protective organ in your muscle tendons less likely to send signals to limit force production when the muscle has increased tension. This allows for greater contraction force than you'd normally be able to produce during a strength or power exercise or during an activity like punching or kicking. The stretch shortening cycle is just the period of time it takes your muscle to transition from the eccentric phase, like your foot landing on the ground during the running gait, to the concentric phase, which would be, for example, your leg muscles contracting as you push your foot back up off the ground. The cycle can easily be trained through explosive, powerful movements, which are often referred to as plyometrics. Can also be trained via powerlifting and weight training exercises like the clean and jerk, the overhead push press, or the weighted jump squat. So tip number 3 is isometrics. Now, here's how isometrics work. If you ever watch an MMA fight, you know there are often long periods of time where competitors are clutched in each other's grip, moving very slowly but with high amounts of force. And isometric training can come in quite handy for this type of fitness. Isometrics combines the Greek words isos, which means equal or same, and metron, which means distance or measure. And it refers to a muscle contraction that doesn't have any visible movement in the angle of the joint. That's in contrast to traditional moving contractions that are called isotonic contractions, in which your muscle length and joint angle change throughout the exercise. So if you've ever performed a wall squat, where you sit in an imaginary chair with your back against the wall for as long as you possibly can, you're familiar with isometric exercising. Your legs are certainly burning, but you're not budging an inch. Other popular examples of iso exercises are the front plank, the side plank, or the boat abdominal hold in something like yoga or Pilates. If you really want to take isometric exercises to the next level, you can use a technique called extreme isometrics, in which you actually move your muscles, but you move them very, very slowly, taking as long as 5 to 10 minutes to do a single rep. As you can imagine, this takes intense focus, but I love to do it with body weight only exercising when I'm traveling. Go ahead and just try to do a 10-minute push-up and see what happens to your entire body. All right, tip number 4 is stamina. Now, true, a fighter doesn't necessarily need the extremely long, enduring skills that a marathon or a triathlon might possess, but they do need to be able to bounce back for round after round. And rounds are typically going to be lasting 3 minutes to 5 minutes. While the concept of building endurance, commonly referred to as road work within the MMA community, is not necessarily rocket science and simply involves moving your body, if you actually shut down the ability of the baroreceptors in your chest to produce high amounts of cortisol, and high amounts of cortisol tend to activate your sympathetic fight and flight nervous system, you can actually be more relaxed during road work. But if you're engaged in shallow chest breathing, it's tough for all that cortisol to get released. But as I introduce in an article that I wrote over at bengreenfieldfitness.com, and I'll link to that in the show notes as well for this episode number 278 over at quickanddirtytips.com, you can actually enhance stamina and endurance without triggering that cortisol stress mechanism in the body by engaging in deep nasal breathing, even when you're exercising during a stamina effort like a weighted 3-mile run or a hard bike ride or a swim. And the concept is very simple. When you turn to breathe or when you breathe through your mouth instead of breathing through your nose. And if you really want to bring this concept to the next level, try filling your mouth with water, or as some ancient warriors like the Spartans did, small rocks, and then go out for your workout while trying to keep those objects or the water in your mouth. It's actually a lot harder than you might imagine when you try to do an entire endurance workout just breathing through your nose. Finally, the last is health. Once you've introduced high-intensity intervals, power, plyometrics, isometric training, and stamina with nasal breathing, be sure to take care of your health. Many gyms, and especially many fighting scenarios, such as mats and turf, contain high levels of the type of germs and bacteria that can lead to a staph infection. I personally use something called essential oils like oregano and lavender to kill these type of compounds after I finish training in this scenario. After all, you can build fitness like a fighter, but it will all be for naught if you wind up in the hospital with a nasty infection. Remember that health and fitness go hand in hand, and you can read about my own personal experience with MRSA and staph in yet another link that I'll put in the show notes over at quickanddirtytips.com for this episode number 278. And I tell you how you can avoid it and what type of essential oils I use for that. Now, if you have more questions about how to train like a UFC fighter or your own tips to add, then join the conversation over at facebook.com/getfitguy. That's facebook.com/getfitguy. And until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield, the Get Fit Guy, asking you, what are you waiting for? Go get fit.